Oh, Kim Hagen.
Good morning, this is Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
We're just going to get started in probably one more minute at 10:04.
I just want to make sure you can hear me.
No, it's great. We can hear you. Okay, so everyone, before we get started, just a reminder for you to mute your phones. So if you haven't muted your computer audio or your phone audio, please do so just so we can limit that background noise for everybody on the call. And then also before we get started, I just want to call out a really important moment right now, which is the bill that the 911 Task Force Legislative Subcommittee has been working on with the task force is up for its third and final reading in the Senate. So it's already passed the House, and then it went to committee and to the floor yesterday and passed in the Senate, and now it's up for its third reading in the Senate. So this is a critical moment, and we couldn't be here without the hard work of Jackie and Athena and the other members of the subcommittee for the 911 task force. So just can't move on to this meeting without recognizing this incredible moment going on right now. And Bruce is monitoring closely, and he will give us a big update once they call for a vote on our bill. So yeah, it's great. It will really help us with this ESInet project. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order then. Just a reminder to everyone to, again, mute your phones and mute your computer audio. And if you need to speak, we will pause and *6 to unmute your phone. And if you are on this call today, we do need to keep track of the attendance, so that's critical. So make sure you sign in. And Daryl's on the ESInet user group webpage right now, and you click that sign in bar. So it doesn't jump out and grab you. If you use some browsers, it may actually not show up, but Google Chrome works great. You click sign in right there, and then you'll be able to record your name and what authority you are representing today. So please remember to sign in. As we go through all of our business items on the agenda, it'll be conversation for voting members of the user group. And then at the end of the agenda, we do have open public comment for anybody else that wants to come in or discuss the project. So feel free at that time to bring your items in front of the user group. So with all of that, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And from a roll call introductions, I'm showing 47 people on the call today, which is fantastic. I love all the attendance, so thank you so much for that. And for those that don't know who I am, I'm Kimberly Culp. I am with Larimer Emergency Telephone Authority. And we'll just go ahead and jump right on in for the project update, which is item number 3. And we have it listed for Nancy, but I believe we're going to go ahead and turn that over to Cindy. And we have a tracker form. Daryl, do you want to share your screen? Not the discussion sheet, but the one that Cindy emailed us this morning. If you don't, I have mine up and I can share that too. Great. Perfect. Thanks, Daryl. So Cindy, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to you, unless you wanted Nancy to give the update.
She might have to jump in on a few things, but I can run through it, Nancy, unless you wanted to. So when it's, sorry, I'm trying to read. It's very small. The Aurora backup site and Thornton both completed migration this month.
Yay.
Yay.
And my understanding is everything was successful and you don't have any open tickets or anything pending for either of those two PSAPs.
We had one change that Aurora requested on how their abandonment routes work. But other than that, kind of what chain the main site abandons to versus the backup site. And we've got that request in process for them to change now that the backup site is online, how that works. But that's the only nothing I show open for Aurora. I don't have anything open for Thornton.
Okay, and really
Okay.
from that perspective, that's a CPE PSAP authority changing on how that busies work, but from a
Yeah.
call flow, call quality, process on the network, everything's been fine, no issues with these 2 additional cuts?
Yep. Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, so, and we'll just kind of go through and let you give all of your updates, and then if you are PSAP authority and you're getting an update for your particular project and you have questions, go ahead and jump in. So the next one will be Jefferson County.
Yeah, Jefferson County. And I just put these dates in this morning, so I'm not sure if Jefferson has seen them or not. I think they have. But, so we had some issues with firewall at the backup center for Jefferson, so we weren't able to complete that pre-migration testing on the original date. So now we have replanned dates of 6/19 for completing the pre-migration, and I believe there's a 6/15 date to do some troubleshooting and make sure those issues are resolved. But 6/19 to complete pre-migration, and then 6/29 to complete the migration.
Okay, great. And you have resources on your end all confirmed for those dates? You're just pending the PSAP authority to confirm?
Yeah, yes, and I think, like I said, I think they've seen them, but I apologize if anyone's on for Jefferson and I haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah,
But
Cindy,
we have
this is Jeff.
Motorola signed up. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Jeff.
Cindy, this is Jeff. Yeah, I saw the appointment for 6/19. I hadn't seen the second date though. So Vicky, are you on by
Okay.
chance? Vicky or Gina from JeffCom? I'll let him know.
Okay.
Thanks, Bruce. So the cheers from those people, House Bill 1293 passed the 3rd and final reading, 23 yeses and 11 noes. So
Yay.
that is fantastic. On its way to the governor's office.
My daughter chimed in at just the right moment. No.
Yeah.
Huge
Oh,
kudos
all right.
to everybody involved. Huge kudos. There was a
Absolutely.
heck of a lot of work that went into this.
And for a very long time.
Yes.
Definitely was a marathon, but that is fantastic. Great. Thank you for the update. Okay, so anything else with JeffCom? Jeff is
No,
going to reach
no.
out to Vicky and team and just make sure that they're good with the migration date of the 29th. And so, Jeff, you'll
Yeah.
follow back up with Cindy after this call?
Yeah, I'm writing an email right now and I'll CC her.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Fremont County cutting this
Fremont.
line.
So it is not. Fremont will need to be rescheduled. They attempted pre-migration testing again on Tuesday, and they're having an issue with a busy signal being heard in the background on the call. And it's not something anyone's run across before, so we're trying to troubleshoot and figure out what's going on.
Okay, so who's working that? I know there are Converge one supported. Is it sounding like it's on the PSAP side, CPE side, ESInet?
I don't think we have that narrowed down yet. So everyone's still involved with, so Intrado, CenturyLink, and Converge One. We're working to kind of troubleshoot where that's coming from and what the issue is.
Okay. Okay, anybody on with Fremont? Okay, do you need anything from the Fremont PSAP Authority that we can follow up on, or is this everything being handled through the troubleshooting with your team?
I think everything's being handled right now.
So the migration date for Fremont is actually TBD now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Pueblo County?
Pueblo County was scheduled for testing yesterday, and I don't see anything indicating whether that was completed or not. Sorry, I was not on it.
Okay,
Anyone?
anybody on the CenturyLink team know?
This is Shauna from Pueblo. Our dates had to be pushed.
Okay, okay,
Um,
because I was
we had
looking
this-
back. I didn't see anything.
Yeah, we had the issue with our contract, and then Converge One couldn't support it because of the delay on our end. So
You're right.
You
I'm
sent us
sorry.
this-
I need to
yeah.
check
And we're still pending those other dates that you sent, Cindy. Unfortunately, I still don't have an answer for you if those will work, but that's where we're at.
Okay. Yeah, so Pueblo's in a TPD status on the dates. We're just trying to get them confirmed. And I'll update right now my tracker so that I show that.
Okay, great. The next group, El Paso Teller PSAPs.
So El Paso, we were not able to complete pre-migration this last week. So we are looking at migration dates now of 7/13, and I'm just waiting for confirmation from the rest of the team and the Entrada group if those 7/13 dates are available for the El Paso County group. We're looking at 7/13, 7/14, I believe.
And that's for the migration, and then pre-migration, do you have dates that you've earmarked?
I don't, but I requested those, so I'm thinking it should be the week of the 6th to complete that.
Okay,
So you previously had, this is Daryl, you previously had migrations for the El Paso PSAPs broken up on 2 different days. Are you going to try to do them all on one day now?
No, we're going to try and do them across the 13th and 14th, I think.
Okay, thanks.
okay. Anything else with that group of PSAPs?
Not at this time.
Are you pending anything from them that we need to follow up on?
Well, they're doing equipment upgrades, so it's all dependent on that completing at this point in time.
Okay, but you're in contact with
Yeah.
them, you're not having any concerns. We don't need to reach
Yeah.
out to Carl. Okay.
No.
Okay. All right, the next one would be Summit County.
Yes, and Summit County is coming up for next week, I believe.
The 15th is what pre-migration is, with a cut of the 18th.
Yeah. I think we're on track.
Okay. And then we move on to our
Arapahoe,
Arapahoe
okay.
group.
Mhm. Now, these dates, I think there's been some talk about shifting these dates, Bruce. I don't know if we're okay to still hold the Littleton and South Metro dates. Or if we're pending the equipment move.
I think we can still move forward. But they're supposed to deliver the equipment Friday.
Okay. Okay.
And then I know South Metro talked about wanting to move the ESInet equipment into the Viper cabinet when it arrives. Nancy sent me a quote, so we do want to move forward with that.
Okay.
Hey, Bruce, Wes.
Yeah.
Are you going to, I know that's for South Metro, you saw that quote, that's kind of TMM on the Entrada rates, but is there also consideration to doing that at Littleton, or is that,
No,
Okay.
Littleton is not considering that.
okay, very good.
Not at this time. We'll. I think we have a status call tomorrow. I can let you know then.
All right, very good, thank you.
And then Inglewood was moved to, I think, July 15th. I have Arapahoe, and I need to move Arapahoe back up out to that date too, but I know it needs to be more towards the end of July.
Yes.
I think after the 20th is what I saw.
Yeah, Kathy sent the date that the
Mhm.
backup is available for the installation of the Viper equipment.
Okay. So Arapahoe County backup will be sometime after July 20th. And Inglewood, will, pending confirmation of resources, it's going to be around the 15th of July.
Okay. All right, any other concerns or updates for the Arapahoe group?
Not from
I don't think-
Arapahoe.
Okay. All right, so sandwiched in all of that, you have Lincoln County, but you have that date in September.
Yeah, that one, yeah. Based on the new schedule I got from Entrado, this one is now looking like September 1st with pre-migration the end of August.
Okay, are you going to move that on the tracker then?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we've got Sterling on July 7th.
Yes, and that still is showing pre-migration and migration the same day. Let me see if I can pull that one up. Sorry, it should be July 16th for migration. There we go.
Okay.
And let me,
And they're aware of that date.
yes.
Okay. And then we have Morgan County on July 9th. And instead of, I guess, going through, we don't need to go through every single one of them, but do you have, when you look at your group of July PSAPs, any questions or concerns about any of them that you want to discuss or that you need some attention or action on from the PSAPs and authorities?
Not specifically these. We have some concerns with all of the PSAPs from earlier in the schedule that have pushed out. And we're getting to the point where we may need to right shift the entire calendar to get everything with all the other PSAPs in and just completed that are halfway done. So just some preliminary conversations about if we need to take this July schedule and right shift it, or the whole rest of the schedule and right shift it, or not.
And when you
So I just
say
want to
right
make you
shift,
guys aware that we may push this. We may need to push the whole schedule 2-3 weeks, right, to get everybody that's halfway through the migration just completed.
okay, so a couple of comments on that. First off, on the July PSAPs, I see Gunnison still at the end of July, and I believe that date needed to be moved and it was agreed on to be moved to the fall.
Which one are you talking about?
Gunnison,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
still
that's-
showed on your list on July 30th.
Gunnison to be in September at this point, I believe.
Yeah. So if you can just reflect those dates in the tracker, that would be great. So if you do shift, you're shifting from the September date,
Yeah.
not the July date for that PSAP. And then because so many of us have many different projects occurring in the year, shifting 2 or 3 weeks or even a month could overlap on additional projects that we have scheduled. So CAD changes, building moves, equipment, I mean, all of those pieces. So when do you believe your team is going to be able to take a look and decide how you're going to rework this schedule to fold back in the PSAPs that already have circuits installed, equipment racked, but were placed in a 2BD because of COVID and the lockouts?
We've already started that internal conversation, and I don't know. It's nice to say that we'll just move the whole schedule 3 weeks, but to your point, it's not as easy as that because there's a million other parts to it. So we're having those conversations now, and I think we're going to have to reach out and work with everyone individually about what makes sense for their specific PSAPs.
Do you want agencies to send you information? So for example, if an agency is good moving to adjusting from September, in our case, to anytime after that date, October, November, or even into next year, do you want PSAPs to just volunteer and tell you what they're able to do, or give you blackout dates and weeks that they can't make the adjustment because of other projects? I mean, how would you like to handle that information?
Blackout dates would probably be good, but I'd like to kind of get with Intrado and everyone and look at the schedule. What I hate to do is move people out that are ready, and then we still have PSAPs that for one reason or another can't complete, and we could have gone ahead and left folks alone and left their schedule be. So that's what I'm trying to get my arms around, is who's really going to be ready, and what date that is, before I try to move somebody else.
Do you want PSAPs and authorities to tell you if they're ready, to send you an information email that just states, listen, we have our demarcation extended, we have power done, we have all the requirements already done and ready to go? Would that be helpful? I'm just trying to figure out how we can get this information back to all of us.
Blackout dates are definitely helpful, because then I'm not trying to squeeze them into something they already know they can't accommodate. And flexibility, if they're flexible on their dates, either moving up or moving out, would be good information to have.
Okay.
Because I know there's some funding mechanisms too that go into it, and where their funding was approved for.
Right. I mean, if it's from a budget cycle perspective, there's methods and communication tools for boards to move funds into another budget cycle. From a grant perspective, I would need Daryl to comment on that. I believe we're okay, because we still have a good buffer into 2021 to spend those grant funds. But Daryl, do you want to comment on the schedule being shifted?
We're okay until the end of 2021. The grant actually expires March of 2022, but it takes about 3 months to close everything up. So from the state's perspective, the end of 2021 is really when we need to have all of the payments made.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd like some time to work with the team on the schedule. We originally thought we had June jam-packed, and so much is moving out of June. I don't want to do the same thing to July and then have moved everybody out of July, and then for one reason or another issues still come up, and those PSAPs couldn't cut in July, and we could have left everybody the way they were.
Right. And I guess what I'm seeing is I don't quite, even on this spreadsheet, I guess going back and looking at the to be determined PSAPs, knowing that they're basically ready to cut, or which PSAPs are ready to cut, because they're in all the different categories you're trying to track here.
Right.
Equipment racked, circuits in. I'm just trying to look to see, how well are all those pieces to be like, okay, these PSAPs on our end are all ready to go. Can we move them up and to fill gaps in July? Can we fill gaps in towards the end of June to start getting some more PSAPs cut?
Right. And that's, let me switch back.
So I guess what you want from all of us, if we have information about movement flexibility, if we're able to go earlier, to let you know that. And then also if we have weeks or dates that are just blackout because of various other projects, to go ahead and let you know that. Is that correct?
Yeah. And then, we'll work with everybody about the various movements. The question is, do we want to kind of pause and get everything that's kind of in TPD completed and then go back to the schedule, or do we just want to keep working the TPDs back in as we go? And that's kind of the discussion we've been having. We seem to be building up a large pile of reschedule.
Well, we are.
Well,
I mean, we're moving forward, but we're moving forward slowly with 2 PSAPs cut, and then many more that just from the list right now of all the El Paso tele PSAPs in a 2PD status. Not saying any of the reasons aren't valid, it's just creating a huge backlog and shifting projects for PSAPs and adjusting dates. There's a lot of dependencies that go into that. So okay.
Some of that can be maybe gap filled by those particular PSAPs that are going to continue, or that will be using the PGM or the camera interface. It's less complicated to coordinate that, and perhaps some of those can maybe be used or moved up. I don't know, but that's something I think is worth exploring.
Yeah.
Is that
And I just wanted to make you guys aware that that conversation was happening about what our best approach is now. Is it to continue to work them in as we go, or to try and pause the schedule and clean up as much as we can of the stuff that's in progress and just get it completed, and then go back to the
okay?
current schedule plan. And no
right.
firm decision has been made either way. And we'd want to have that conversation with you guys, of course.
Yeah, and I think we just need to know soon. We need to understand. So do you have a date that you guys want to have your internal discussion complete, and you can put an email out to us so we understand what the plan is, and then we can start to work on that on our end? Is this a conversation you guys are going to have by the end of the week? Is it something that's going to go into next week?
I think probably into the middle of next week, Wes, don't you think?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
really just come up when we saw it snowball into just the recent change with some of the large PSAPs that rolled over into July. So we're going to have to kind of circle the wagons with Tim Goodwin and Tim Kunkelman here and the team here to come up with a revised plan on, and then get back to you. But we haven't even had a chance to discuss the latest changes with Mr. Goodwin. And I assume, Daryl, that would something of that scale would require a revised filing of sorts?
Well, CenturyLink is required to file every 2 months and update right now. I think it's every 2 months, or maybe it's once a quarter. I'll have to look. So whenever they do their next update, that would be a good time to tell us what the revised schedule is.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to be waiting to hear from you guys, hopefully by the end of next week, some idea of a plan, a tentative schedule, how you're going to work this, whether it's keep it as is and then fold in the pending PSAPs into different gaps, or if you're going to need to shift the entire schedule and then insert groups. But definitely we'll be looking forward to that communication towards the end of next week. As it relates to the schedule, I just wanted to call out that from a LEDA perspective, I did send an email out to you guys about a waiver request for one of the requirements. And so I haven't heard back on that. If you guys can just communicate or take a look at that and let me know if you have any questions. And then I also brought up the Gunnison date shift. So outside of the schedule and the timeline for everybody, do you have any other updates you wanted to bring up and discuss before we move on to other items on our agenda?
Other than the PSAPs that have migrated, I think pretty much all of you should have received the documents from Entrado for the metrics account access. And once you complete that and send that back to them, you'll be getting a secure ID fob emailed to you. So if you can keep in contact and let us know when you have that, so that we can get the training set up to walk you through those reports and make sure your access is working correctly and you have access to all the reports and understand how they work and what they're providing.
Okay. And I know we're tracking that now, so we'll just kind of do a general announcement for everybody on the call. So once you migrate over, you will get an email that will give you this access to be able to run reports on the ESInet. And so what Cindy's mentioning, if you've already migrated over, to make sure you follow those steps and then follow through, get your access, and then ask and request the training. So then you can pull some additional reports on the ESInet through Entrado's portal. For those of all of us that haven't cut yet, we just need to track that, and it's on this tracking sheet under the, we have one of the items here, I'm not seeing, it's not jumping out, metrics, I believe, requested.
Yeah.
So the metrics requested item, so they'll track when they send it to us, but something for us to just remember and keep an eye out for once you migrate over, to make sure you get that access into the portal to pull your own reports. Great. All right. So Daryl, if you want to put the agenda back up, we'll move on then. If you have questions about the schedule or your particular PSAP, go ahead and come off mute. And I think we have talked about pretty much everything under item 3. So the next item we're going to go through will be the discussion items spreadsheet. And while Daryl's pulling that up, if you have questions on the schedule, *6 to unmute, and you can get those asked real quick. Okay, as Daryl puts on the working filter, we have just a few items, and one of the items I wanted to bring forward, and that is item number 72, and this really talked about our firewalls and security, and we have different items that we're tracking on this, but I added a comment here in red, and it's information relearned from Intrado. And what they're telling us now is that a firewall is not needed and not required on the CPE side of the demarcation. And it's actually preferred from them not to, and they believe it doesn't create any additional risk into the network. Kevin, I don't know if you're on the call today or if you were aware of this change that is being recommended by Intrado.
I was not aware of that change, and our recommendation is always follow your vendor's methods. So if they have a way, regardless of the CPE type of equipment, I mean, we put a firewall because we recommend it. I would always recommend it, but always follow your CPE vendor's methods.
Okay. And Ed, do you feel comfortable speaking to this? I know we don't have Derek on the call today, but do you feel comfortable talking through what Derek learned on this item?
No, I don't think I really have any details to add to it, unfortunately, any more than just that statement that you've got in red there.
So thanks, Ed. And this is a shift and a change for everything that we had been talking about. The reason it's significant is it's less equipment, less costs, perhaps less uptime for CPE vendors and PSAPs authorities. And of course, if we can save costs and not introduce risk, and if we can save additional points of failure and opportunities for equipment failure, that's a good thing. We just don't want to make any decisions and increase risk. So this was interesting. What we'll do is get more information and we'll build this out for our next call. But if we have information in between that we think is critical for those PSAPs that are in the process of acquiring a firewall, we'll send that too. And I just bring this up also to encourage all of you, especially if you're on a Viper system, to talk to your CPE provider, whether it's Converge One or talk to Intrado, and ask about this. Any other questions or comments about that? So I'll take that section as an action item, but again, I just wanted to bring that up right away because I know some of you are in the process of procuring those firewalls. And if Intrado, through your CPE vendor, told you you needed them and now they're telling you you don't, you may want to go back and get a refund or request a refund, so you're not paying for that additional hardware. Okay, the next item we have is item number 73, which is the ESInet, and what we have here is just Aurora listed as the global default. It's the PSAP of last resort, basically, and they were listed as that because they were the only ones on the ESInet. This is just an item we're keeping up. It doesn't mean we want to make that change right now, but if Scott or anybody with Aurora is on the call and they want to talk through this or request a change, I just want to give an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, this is Rob Greer with Aurora. Yeah, we're fine with still leaving it on there for right now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob. And I think once we get through additional cuts, we can always revisit who should be that very, very last resort PSAP and how that would look. But right now, Aurora, you're going to remain in the hot seat for that.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, and for Bretza, what we have here we're tracking is additional pad devices being installed at their remote PSAPs. and Brett's has been on lockdown, so that work had just been tabled. But if you are a host node remote type of scenario, this could apply to you if you want pad devices installed at your remote sites. So I don't think we have any other additional updates from our previous call, which Patty was stating we're just pending access to the PSAPs. But Patty, are you on the call by chance?
I am.
Okay, so status the same.
Yeah, they're opening things up at the county, and they were just waiting to get a priority set as to who can come in, but then they're going to move forward, I believe, with Entrado getting it done.
Okay. Great. And then Weld County, part of the pad issue for Weld, they wanted it relocated. So I don't know if that work was complete, Cindy, for Weld County, or if Mike is on. Cindy, do you know if Weld's pad device got relocated?
Cindy, I don't know. I've been speaking
I
with Mike
believe
quite a
it
bit
had,
lately.
but I'll follow up with Paul to make sure.
Yeah. Mike has not brought it up in multiple conversations this week, so I thought it was done.
Yeah, I thought it was done as well.
Okay, if you can just
But I'll
get
confirm,
confirmation.
yeah.
Yep, thank you. And then I don't know, I guess the big question for other remote host and remote sites, are you installing multiple pads at their location? So I guess the next one would be Arapahoe. Is that part of the plan, is to have pad devices installed at the remote PSAPs?
We're not.
You're not, okay. And so Cindy, is it accurate to state that if Arapahoe requested it, then CenturyLink would install remote pads at their remote PSAPs?
I think we're still going through the process to make that an option, but yes, that is the plan. If the PSAP requests it, we would do that.
Okay, great, thank you. Do you have an idea of when you would be done? Do you have a deadline circulating? Because I know this has been a conversation since February that we've been talking through, so several months in the works of trying to get an idea if this would be a service offering or what that would look like for other PSAPs.
I do not have one. It was hung up in the contract process between the two businesses, but I'll get an update from those legal teams. It was a much larger agreement that it was unfortunately in.
Okay. All right, and then the next item we have is CallWorks. And so the situation here is if you are a PSAP authority that has a CallWorks CPE and you want to do an IP handoff from the ESInet, the CallWorks solution Motorola wants to test in the Entrado ESInet lab to confirm that the solution is going to behave as they intended it to in the CenturyLink Entrado ESInet. That testing in the lab is supposed to be taking place sometime in July, if I'm tracking the issue correctly. And then we'll be able to get those PSAPs, once the thumbs up is given, back on the schedule. Did I summarize that correctly, Cindy and Wes?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so I believe the date is still scheduled for mid-July. I haven't heard any of that slipping, so hopefully that'll be good to go.
Yep.
And then the last item we're tracking here is the change fee, and that's the change fee that has to do with CenturyLink. If you select PGM and then you decide you want to go with IP, they have a change fee for the PSAP. So we've asked CenturyLink to document in their next filing with the PUC the change fee, their justification for the change fee, and the work that they're anticipating would be required when they change and do the handoff from a PGM to a SIP. So that next commission filing, we should be able to have all of that documented. And that's the items that we have on the discussion item spreadsheet. Does anybody have anything else they would like to document and have included on this spreadsheet? Okay, if you think of anything, it's really helpful to have these items documented so we can circle back. We know what date we started the conversation and how long it's taking to get some of these items resolved. So it's really important to track this. And even when we're getting different information like the firewall piece, we can always circle back to. So if you do have an item that you would like documented that you want follow up on, you can email me or you can add it yourself in the discussion item spreadsheet. So you can do that at any time after this call or in between calls.
Kimberly, this is Daryl. Did you see the chat messages
I
regarding
did
the firewall?
not. Okay, let me pull those up.
Jerry, I see you're on the call. Jerry Eastman, do you want to speak to this a little bit?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
So that was an interesting development. I generally concur with Bruce's thoughts. I think I'd like to understand better what their risk considerations were when they say they don't need that. It's generally considered a basic security requirement for the edge risks that the organization faces, but not being a technical expert on how they've got this configured. If it's a public IP address that this is connecting to, then I don't see how you make that recommendation, but I'm not an expert on how they got this configured. So I would simply ask, what were the risk factors that they considered when they made the recommendation?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think some additional conversation follow-up would be great. And the person who's making the recommendation with Intrado is pretty high up in the tier and does all of the router configurations, firewall configurations for these projects. And so I think getting either him or having him document more information for all of us will be critical in that project.
This is Kevin. I'm kind of curious about it too. I mean, I'm really surprised.
Me too.
But I mean, for me, I mean, we always recommend a firewall to protect the edge. And yes, this is a secure network, which they're not public IP addresses, but still, the rule number one of all security, my security lecture is this: don't trust anybody. And that's kind of a counter what I've always understood. And now I'm also saying that we've done implementations in Colorado that nobody's ever done before. So on the Vipers and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm curious how they describe that.
Well, it goes against the standard practice of all those
Right.
things that we've done with cyber and everything else. Kimberly, could you be so kind? Is it appropriate for you to forward that to us?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think everybody needs to know this information because getting conflicting information it's concerning and it definitely gives you a pause. So from getting a big picture, we'll get all that packaged up so CenturyLink can have the conversation with Intrado and the group. But then we also, from a large scale perspective, we need to also understand so we can have Jerry involved and the rest of us and talk through what's going on here. Because if Intrado's making the recommendation not to put in firewalls, but then they don't have a clear security solution as to why that makes sense, we need to know that.
Yeah, this is Daryl.
Yeah, but no matter what, we would certainly, I think it's a good practice. And I don't know why they're suggesting that at this point, but we would still like to add, I think, as an ongoing practice, that extra measure of security anyway, as something that I would think that we would want in Colorado. But again, I defer to, taking a deeper look at this with the experts, of which I am not.
This is Daryl. I'm not a cybersecurity expert either, but if there's no firewall on the PSAP side, that essentially means the PSAP is trusting every piece of data coming from the ESInet, and that's just not good. It does not fit in with everything that I've learned about cybersecurity up to this point.
And this is Ed, and I don't know the complete description of why that recommendation came about, but I think from what Derek told me is that the router on the Intrado side is going to be configured to only allow the traffic that it needs to allow for the SIP calls to come through. So only from your router device and only appropriate traffic. But we definitely need to get more details surrounding that that particular piece of advice.
Yeah, so definitely thanks, Ed, for that, and everybody. So we will, again, take this information and get CenturyLink, get you guys connected in, and so you guys can do that adequate follow-up, and then we'll bring this back to the group so everyone is aware of what is being said by Entrado as it relates to, at least specifically, the Viper and their ESInet. Great. Anything else on the discussion item spreadsheet? Okay. Daryl, do you mind going back to the agenda? Okay, so COVID funds availability. Daryl, did you want to talk through that?
Getting off of mute here. So a couple things. First of all, I want to remind, I'm guessing probably everybody that's on this call, because you're already involved, has already sent in your quotes and W-9s to us so that we can get started setting up your grant agreement. But if you have not done that, please make sure to do so. The link to the grant page is on the ESInet page. So if you click on grant program about halfway down the ESInet users group page, it'll take you to the grant program page, and there are copies of the documents that we need on that page. So just want to make sure, because there are a few 911 authorities that still haven't sent us anything, probably those that are later on in the process, and there's still plenty of time, but we're just trying to get ahead of the curve on that. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, and I don't have any particular resources for anyone, but I'm curious if there's anyone who has looked into any of the grant funding that's becoming available through the various COVID response legislation. If anybody's looked at any of that as a possibility to help them pay for things like the electrical costs and the other things that are not being covered by the federal grant. Has anybody looked into that at all? Is there anything that you can share? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no, I guess. If anybody hears about any opportunities that may come up, because I know there are some, there's a lot of money flying around right now from the stimulus bills that have come out. So if anything does come up that might be of use to the community, please let us know so we can share it with everybody.
Great.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Daryl. All right, so that's it for our new business. So I will open it up to open discussion from anybody that has any items they want to bring forward and discuss with everyone.
Hey, Kimberly.
Yes, Jackie.
This is Jackie. I didn't know if my email went out, got announced, because I was joining late.
I don't have my emails up, but if it's about the bill, we were cheering.
Yay, good. Okay, yes. House Bill 1293 is going to the governor's office.
Yes. So congratulations, Jackie, to you and Athena for running point on all of this and all of the hard work. So very exciting, and can't wait for it to be signed off. So
yeah, and
full court press now at the governor's office. I'm not sure what that'll look like, but I see some emails flying around about the final step of planning. But it's going to be so helpful for our state.
Yes, and I really appreciate everyone's work on this, because everyone worked hard. Thank you.
And we appreciate your work, Jackie. Jackie has put in a lot of hours on this.
It actually is going to help us be able to afford this awesome network.
This is awesome.
Yep.
There you go.
Well,
yes.
Great. Any other open discussion items? Okay, public comment. Those that are not voting members that joined us, do you have any items you would like to bring forward to the ESInet user group? Okay, I know we covered a lot today, a lot of moving pieces as it relates to the schedule. So Cindy, we're going to be sitting tight waiting to hear back from you on how CenturyLink plans on getting everybody plugged in. And for everybody else, if you've got blackout dates, make sure you email that information over to Cindy so she can take that into consideration. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining these documents, and the recording will be saved up in the folder. So if you need to refer to them later, you'll have access to them. So thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.